pleased to rise today to talk on the Building Legislation Amendment Better Protection Bill 2025. And yes, from the outset, we do oppose this bill. Absolutely 100%. What I don't like in the industry is dodgy builders. I hate it. And I've given this government solutions time and time again. Time and time again, I've given the government solution on how to get rid of dodgy builders out of the industry. Now, it's interesting when I'm just listening to the member for Tarneit, or member for three-piece seats as he's known, just listening to him then, and all he talked about was dodgy builders, dodgy builders, dodgy builders. I'm just wondering how much consultation those on the other side have actually done themselves. There's 50-something members over there. I'm wondering if any one of these members rang a builder and explained the bill to them and what that reaction is. I doubt they did. I wonder if any member on that side of the chamber bothered to take the time to sit down with the Master Builders of Victoria and the Housing Industry Association. I bet not one of them, I bet not one member of their caucus pushed back against the minister on this bill and started to question the unintended consequences of the bill. Not one. I will guarantee that. And this is the problem with those opposite. They're too scared to ask some questions. They're too scared to ask questions. Now, Acting Speaker, I do have to reference letter from a combined statement from the MBA and the HIA. The very first line, it says, MBA and HIA both condemn proposed new legislation as unfair and unworkable. Quote from the MBA, we all understand the need to protect consumers and have a fair, reasonable and respectful dispute resolution process. But this legislation takes a potential sledgehammer to the rights of builders. The HIA quoted, where is the logic when under these new rules a builder could be potentially at risk of being subject to a rectification order a decade or more after they've finished the job? Another one from the HIA, add insult to injury, builders have no effective right to challenge the making of an order. And this is where the problem with this bill is. You've introduced a bill while you're reforming domestic building contracts. That's number one. That's the reason amendment. Get the contracts done first, consult the industry, then bring the bill in. Very, really simple. The other problem with the bill is the definition of a defect. The definition of a defect is very important here because if you go and look at what the definition of a defect is, a minor defect is any other defect that is not structural. Any other defect that is not structural can be claimed against a builder for up to 10 years. Now that is ridiculous when the warranty period on a lot of items that a builder puts in a house might only be 7 years. So how do you hold him to account for 10 years when the warranty is only 7 years on certain products? Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, there's an easy hooker under a sink and it's got a leak. That leak's been there for 3 years. Right? There's no onus on the owner to report that to the builder. After 3 years of a water leak, the damage is more. Now, there used to be a system when I was building, we had an umpire. It was a very good system. Those opposite may not be aware of this, but there's a thing called standard and tolerances within the building industry. It's literally the Bible. Now, what would happen if you got into a dispute with a client, you would call it's called the VBA now, I can't remember what it was called back then, but a qualified person came out, had the contract, had the standards and tolerances, the client was there, the builder was there, we went through the whole list and he said, builder, you have to fix A, B, C, D, client, you're off the planet, that's not right. It was a really simple thing. You paid a fee. They came out. We got rid of dispute resolution very quickly and very easily. This is probably what the government should look towards, not this legislation. When a builder can end up in VCAT and they talk about we go to mediation, right? That's fine, go to mediation, but if the builder's been held to account over something that's actually not his fault, right? Because consumers can do silly things too. If he's getting held to account to something that's not his fault, goes to VCAT and his licences can be suspended, that's not fair. That's the unintended consequence of this bill. And we say we want to get more people into homes. Well, what if you've got a Metricon or a Simmons that's in that situation, that exact situation, and they have their licence removed? They're two of the biggest home builders in Victoria. How are you going to increase supply? Yes, there needs to be protection for consumers. I get it. I get it every day of the week. There's dodgy builders. I get that. There's dodgy accountants, dodgy solicitors, dodgy doctors, dodgy politicians, as the minister just pointed out. So yes, I agree, get rid of the dodgy element, but this bill is not a fair bill. We talk about this bill will increase costs by up to about $30,000 on a domestic house. We're trying to get people into homes. We're making it less affordable again. Less affordable. And let's go to the 2% bond on high-rise. Now, this is a brain fade by the government. They obviously don't know how it works. You've got a developer. He engages a builder. That builder will have a 5% retention on him. 2.5% for 12 months. He gets 2.5% back on practical completion. Then it'll be a 2.5% defect liability period for 12 months. He doesn't get that money back if there's outstanding defects. There's already a bond. But you're going to put on another bond, which the developer will put onto the price of the unit, which will cost the consumer more. The developer's not going to go, I'll wear 2% for 12 years. He will on-pass that cost on, and then hopefully he gets the money back after 2 years. He's made an extra 2%. It's actually not smart. It is not smart legislation. The biggest problem we have in construction and defects is water leaks. And this is where the government, you're going to the back end. You've got to go to the front end and fix the problem. You want to protect the consumers, introduce more inspections. It's really simple. Waterproofing in Victoria is not inspected. Those over that side might be shocked, but waterproofing isn't inspected in this state. And when you're talking high-rise, that is the biggest cause of defects, is waterproofing defects. So how you bring in the legislation to inspect waterproofing? Make sure it's done right. It's done in New South Wales and Queensland, but not in Victoria. Fix the problems at the front end and you will have less defects at the back end. But you cannot hold builders liable for 10 years on minor defects. It is stupid. Absolutely stupid. Yes, consumers need to be protected, and I'll encourage the government to go back into Hansard, have a look at my contributions and maybe pick some suggestions out of there, or ring me directly. Happy to help if you want to protect consumers. But this bill will decimate the building industry. Here's another fact for those opposite. There's 20,000 builders in Victoria. 20,000. How many do you think are practising? 6. Out of the 20,000, we have 6,000 practising builders. We lost over 800 last year, gone into liquidation. They already carry a burden from non-rise and falling contracts. Okay, they already carry that burden. They lock into that. You start putting this on builders, you will have builders leaving this industry. No doubt. And every builder I spoke to has said, stuff it, I'm out. Because you can't enforce a warranty period that goes greater than the product warranty. And so all of a sudden you're going to get a belligerent or a vexatious client, and they're out there, right? And you get tied up with them and you have your licence cancelled over something that's not your fault. Because sometimes, you know what, might be a shock to those opposite, not everyone tells the truth. If a client's dug a trench through beside a garage, has undermined the footing next to it, it's all overgrown with vegetation, and all of a sudden that footing snaps, they're not going to tell the builder, they're not going to tell the VBA that they did it because they know it's going to cost them $50,000 to fix it. So they'll drag that builder through the process, not his fault, and he'll get his licence suspended until he can prove otherwise. And that's an expensive process. You want dispute resolution, go back to how it used to be done, not this method. This method's going to kill this industry. And I have sat down for hours and hours on this bill. I have talked to stakeholders everywhere. This is not the solution. Think of something else. If this government passes this bill through, it just proves to me They actually don't understand the construction industry. They don't understand the domestic construction industry. And it's telling me the minister is absolutely clueless as to how to fix it.